ngalo na la wato kuma ta baka asira linga da fo ko nyu found kila
hey elafta maboro la bank kalpo efa igiso SO na yuna jang ibadin kiyato kati yuna wallet ibe falindiro ke kan sandiri nyat
ni la yuna wallet o si muna fanno tulo jabo mano kandri ani fen jama isi sanno la yuna wallet o kono yalla kamo soto ila wallet o kono
alkana la kondano tay kafi yuna wallet anatan tolle mukan nabal wo fanondi abe sono yaren ko bulu podo nela mobile scan yo science ise maboro ke wato men diate
ko be sandro ke fangole ba ko ba ke kan dimbalem isi ñu lonko e sandro se yona enterprise wato wati ani la yona wallet ola ibe lan kamo soto kay la wallet o kono
alina nga kafun nanyi yuna dimbayal kan kasandiro ke yuna biti foto alina kata nyin ko kentat na sura fa lolu si sandiro kije se maboro fanan keje
moro jundiana nyum ko di mabal ni kadeda
And welcome to another edition of our show. It's another Thursday and we're back in the studio here in Tranquil. It's another rainy day. I don't know how you guys sailed through the water. It was difficult for me, but thank God we're here in the studio. And of course with me, I have Madi, Jobarteh human rights activist. Madi, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's been what? It's been what? How many, about a year you didn't come to my show, Madi? Yeah, it's over a year. Kabirim Baroko, Madi Jobarteh, Kabirim Banko Malala. I think after that you came to the show.
Well,
after that we haven't. I haven't.
2 years ago.
It's about 2 years. Yeah, since then we had one show. After that, I haven't had you on the show.
Well,
How have you been?
I'm around. I'm fine. I mean, ever more hopeful in high spirits.
And determined, more determined.
Happier.
At some point, I was.
More determined. Yeah.
At some point, I said this. I think with Marr, when I was with Marr here, I said, Marr, it seems like there's only two people talking now. If Madi Jobarteh can even take a back seat, I'm getting scared. But I'm happy that,
Okay.
you're back to...
I don't know what's the backseat. But yeah, I mean, you feel frustrated sometimes about this country, about state of affairs. Yeah, you even think of giving up. But so someone once told me, discussing that, said, no, you can't give up. If you love your country, you can't give up. So I said, yeah, then make that next thing, yeah. So I'm around. Yeah. I'm Gambian. I have no other passport other than
Gambia.
And I intend to live nowhere else other than the Gambia.
Great. It's great to have you back. Because when you see people like Madi, okay, manta munna gonna talk. Defar suma togay, Marr. Marr, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you on a short notice, Baral ma de tay moto indi wulo mun lo indi haftan bi, Why, great to have you back on the show, Marr.
It's a pleasure, Fatou. Always good to be here, and my greetings to Uncle Madi,
yeah,
our not only brother but uncle is everything.
And doyen. Yes.
It's everything to us, advocate, and yeah, I mean it's a pleasure to be back here. You pulled me out in a very
I know, right?
rare outfit.
I know.
Marr feels uncomfortable without a hat, but
Yeah, but this is good. At least it's good like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Man is always smart.
Yeah, Marr is always smart. When I call him, he's like, "Why fuck ma dem jëli haftaan?" Man ko no, bul worry Marr. Bul dem jëli haftaan bi ak hat bi. Ñëwal rek dina baax, But it's great to have both of you here. Today I wanted to have this conversation around the state of our nation. What is the state of this country at this juncture? I think we should have a conversation around what is happening. Madi, when you look at everything that is happening 6 months, 7 months into 2024, how would you describe the state of our nation as we speak today, July 25th, 2024?
Well, just a few days ago, I made a bold statement that the state of the nation is a failed state.
Failed state?
Failure, yeah. And every day, that is what, for me manifests, in a very annoying and disappointing way, because it doesn't have to be like this. We have absolutely no reason to be at this level, having been independent for the past 50-something years. When you look at the social indicators, the economic indicators, the political indicators, in between, all the other elements, whether it's energy, infrastructure, or, basic services, social services, in terms of access, in terms of availability, in terms of quality, you realize the indicators are really bad. And so I always ask myself why that is the case. Because we have no shortage of education, like educated people, people with skills, with experience, expertise exist here for the past 50-something years.
Yeah.
We have no shortage of resources. Gambia is a highly endowed country, with natural resources and a very enterprising population.
Yeah.
And the very structure of our country itself is so helpful because it's one long line with a river right in the middle of it, which is navigable all year round. Abundance of water resources, with a fertile land that is flat generally and cultivable, every part of it. We don't have any barren sections of this land.
Yeah.
With a climate that can sustain any crop, any fruit, any vegetable, you can imagine, any cereal. So what we need is leadership, that would organize and mobilize the human resources and the natural resources of this country. On a path that is guided by values, such that by today we should have been counted among the most advanced countries in the world, the most peaceful country, among the most peaceful countries in the world. And the evidence of that is there to say we could have done this, because one country with whom we gained independence in the same year, because most Gambians know that we have independence in 1965, is Singapore. And when you look at the similarities, we have more similarities than differences. But with leadership, have a way we can analyze or validate or qualify the leadership. They managed to produce a country today that is envy of the world. So for me, by today, July, 2024, I think we've been a failure, and a failure which we are not ready to acknowledge, we are not ready to accept, and we are not ready to correct. But you know, the leadership, the state of the Gambia, when I look at the decisions, the actions, you know, their conduct, it is like they have taken a deliberate attempt to continue to plunder this country, to derail this country, mercilessly. And so it's okay to have failure, you know, people face failures, but what is not okay is to refuse to learn from your failure, to lift yourself up and, you know, aim for the better, higher. So what I see is we are not making any attempt to stop this failure and to lift ourselves up and aim for the better. And one just needs to look at currently the decisions that have been put on the table by the state to confirm that we are not ready or we are not willing. So I think it's a sad, the state of the nation is very sad, as far as I'm concerned.
The state of the nation is very sad. That's what Madi thinks. We'll come to something very important that you touch on, access to basic needs. That is a fundamental right to have electricity, have access to water, and all of that, especially now we are in the rainy season. What are the farmers experiencing right now? We'll get to all of that. But Marr, I want your take on the state of the nation right now, 7 months into the year. What do you think, where are we as a country?
There are highlights and lowlights from January to July 25th, 2024. The highlights perhaps could be we have seen increase in domestic revenue collection from the government of the Gambia, and then the GRA has now introduced stringent measures to close gaps, and then also make sure that certain goods that are in the market that are not levied, they already labeled so that they could actually be generating the revenue that is owed to the government. And that is one of the things that we've been pushing for, increasing domestic revenue. And if you look at what has transpired in the previous year, we have not yet scored 20 billion domestic revenue, $20 billion in domestic revenue since independence to date. Last year we were a bit close, 17.8 billion. So probably this year, with these measures that are already there, we should be able to score that. That's one of the highlights. The other highlights is what is happening with NAWEC right now with SOE Commission. They are now rewarding and punishing. So when NAWEC underperformed, they punish NAWEC by imposing this 5% deduction of their salaries and rewarding the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation. Those are some of the highlights, but I can't recall everything, but there are some concerning lowlights as well. Security is one. Fatou, now a day after, or should I say week in, week out, we keep hearing murder cases, right? You know, people being butchered like they're not human beings. Just recently, there are like, is it 2 or 3 murder cases in this month of July that have been recorded, and they are very much concerning. So that is one of the things that is really making so many people scared to go out in the night. Before you can work 2 a.m., 3 a.m., all the way to 6 a.m. without having at the back of your mind that you're going to be attacked. Now that's thing of the past, right? You know, no matter how bold you are, even taxi men, right? Taxi drivers, there are certain period during the night they will not allowed to take town trips because of what is actually happening with their fellow taximen. So that is also a very concerning low light. But then also the issue of these drugs have become more issue of discuss. How it get into the country, how many people it have been killing. I think the borders have been so weak that the importation of these drugs into our country is costing the lives of our very youthful population, and then promising young people. So that is also very much concerning. The lowlights, obviously.
Yeah.
The ferries.
The ferry service. The ferries, yes, definitely.
I mean, I'm laughing, but it's not a laughing
It's
matter.
not, it's serious.
Because the ferry service, because anytime I see it on TV,
Yeah.
I talk about it. So they might actually see me as someone else who's always attacking them. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's about the interest of the state.
Yeah.
The amount of money that is generated from that ferry service that should be benefiting the state, right? The services that people should enjoy from the ferry services that they are not getting from the ferry services. So these are very concerning. It affects both the population, the citizens, and then that of the state in terms of revenue and the picture of the state. So it's pretty much concerning, what happened in January. The ferry had an issue in April and had an issue until date since May, when the ferry got back to operations. There's still one ferry that is undergoing operations, right? Yeah. The Kunta Kinte, people queue there for 5 hours. Businesses getting stranded. And recently you've seen what happened, delaying a whole ferry for one individual. Yeah. Right, keeping people stranded, the elderly, the weak, the sick, everyone stranded. So that is a very concerning issue, and I think this is a year of reflection. Or should I say, halfway through the year, it should be a reflection to the government that the ferry services should be reformed. That is another low light, obviously, but then as well the attitude of the public service, right? Attending to duties on time, delivering services on time, and then expenditure attitudes of our states, right? This was the year that we had the OIC, and we had over, almost $1 billion, because $734 million was expended on the procurement of vehicles alone. That vehicles only sat for 2 days. 2 days. And
it's shared among ministers.
It's shared already with people. So that was not really necessary, given the fact that we only have 6 presidents that came, right? All the others will join a normal shuttle. So you can have the GTSC bus, right? They bought in the bus, and then you get them to
even
their
rent
destination.
vehicles,
So that was also, a low light, but the highlight of the OIC, obviously, apart from the vehicle and then other accommodation extravagant expenses. I think if the report comes out, it will be sickening, because we've already started receiving report on how much has been spent on these, accommodations that are not hotel accommodations. I cannot see the figure right now because it's not proven, but the information that we're getting is so concerning, and it is unacceptable if that is the case. But obviously, the good side of it is the Gambia as a country hosted the OIC, put the Gambia on the spotlight, and infrastructural development benefits that the Gambia benefited from it, and so on. So I think for me, so far, these are some of the lowlights and the highlights of 2020.
From what you said, ferries stood out. The government said they're procuring new ferries, and they're expecting them, I think, sometime in 2025, I think, right? Now, you said something, that's what we're going to start with, a video surfaced of where people are complaining that the deputy speaker they had to wait for the deputy speaker for almost 2 hours to get him on the ferry. Now, when I saw the video at first, I didn't want to post it, because I'm like, okay, maybe it's one of those things we always get. But when I saw the reaction from the ferry service confirming, now they only saying that the time frame it was not 2 hours, it was 35 minutes. They also, I think, said they consulted, there were no sick people in the ferry, and obviously these are high dignitaries, and you know, when they're coming and that's the last ferry, sometimes they wait for people because that is the norm. Is it wrong to accord those privileges to our officials, especially people that are, you know, in those kind of position? Deputy Speaker is one of the first 5 in command in the country, right?
Well, it's absolutely not normal, and it is absolutely wrong to accord privileges to individuals at the expense of hundreds of people that are already on board. And it is not true that they have assessed every single individual that was on that ferry to determine whether they are sick, whether they are in a haste, whether they are catching up a flight in Senegal, whether they are attending funeral, whether elderly people there, they can sit for 35 minutes or more than that without having side pain, whether there was going to be a rain and those on top were going to be affected when the rain comes down, and what is going to be the effects of that rain on those people. Are they going to catch cold? So they cannot give that true picture. The reality is they've said it is a normal thing that they have been doing, which is very unacceptable. Now, all the government officials, when they are traveling abroad at the Banjul International Airport, then they are not called a pilot and then tell the pilot, wait for me, I'm having a meeting with the president. They wouldn't do that. They will be there an hour before or 2 hours before their scheduled flight. The same thing when they're coming from other countries to catch their flight to the Gambia. So it just shows what I call the last time Kumabu Amde, Kumabu Amunde in the Gambia. You understand? Because you are at this level, but the moment you get out of that level, you know, all the privileges that occur to you, you will not actually get it again. But then remember that there were elected parliamentarians that were there on time, and they bought the ferry on time. So what's wrong with him coming to the ferry on time? If he was having a meeting with anybody else, if he was having a meeting with the president, and then you're going to cross, wait and give the maximum time that is due to the president and have the conversation. Wait for the next ferry, which is going to be 6 a.m. because your activity is not going to be that night at the ferry, sir. I mean, at North Bank region. Why not you wake up 5 a.m. like ordinary citizens do to catch the ferry? It was not an emergency. If it was an emergency, then we would have said, okay, this is okay. But there was no justification that is given by either the Deputy Speaker or the ferry services. So now, what this is telling us is that public officials can sit in their house and sleep at any time that they want, wake up any time that they want, get to the ferry, while citizens wake up 4 a.m., queue there in a very dilapidated structure, bad condition, wait, and then public officers will just cross. And it's not only the Deputy Speaker, even junior staff, as far as there's GG or is a project car, they let you pass. So how about the businesses that are paying taxes to the state that are being delayed, and delaying those goods also means it affects the economy. So I think you know, the Gambia Ferry Service continue to manifest their incompetence in handling this business. And then you talk about this ferry that is being procured. Fine, it's okay to procure these ferries, but you know, business people, you cannot take this away from them. They are very smart.
Yeah.
See where they have built their terminal right at the entrance of Banjul. That is the first thing you come into contact, right? So why would I have to drive all the way to the ferries, Gambia Ferry Service Terminal, knowing that they are not punctual, they're always missing their scheduled time, and then also the vessel might have issues. Why do I have to wait, or why do I have to pass this ferry terminal, the private one, and then go all the way there? So they might actually outperform the Gambia Ferry Services, because number one, the location is strategic. Number two, it will be more efficient. Number three, it will be more comfortable. So gradually,
is that not what we want?
But it's going to be private.
Okay.
Now, if Gambia Ferry Services extended their terminal to that particular place and then make it a dual terminal,
They will
right?
be in competition.
Then the money goes to the country. The country cannot say they don't have the money. When the Gambia wants money, Gambia gets money. You understand? So I think it all goes down to you know, just being strategic, being business minded, because this is not an ordinary institution. It is a state-owned business. So you have to have people that are business minded to provide, most importantly, you know, quality services to the citizens.
Madi, you saw the video about the ferry where citizens claim that they had to wait for the deputy speaker. Now, she thinks that is wrong, but in anywhere in the world, public officials have some privileges. That's why they have the VIP room at the airport. I don't go through the VIP room, they go through the VIP room. I get to queue to go to the airport to get those things. They don't have to because they are public officials, they're serving us. They have those privileges. If the ferry needed to wait for the deputy speaker for an hour or even 35 minutes, is that justifiable?
Absolutely not. You know, Marr made a good analogy about the plane, the flight. And I had a conversation with someone, exchanging with someone on this. If we had a plane, an airline, Gambia airline, you know, and so the plane is on the tarmac, departure time. So are they saying again the deputy speaker or the speaker or the minister needs to travel, so they'll delay the flight to wait for that person? You know, the thought of that and what had happened, for me, comes back to where I think we're a failed state. You see, for public service cannot be at the mercy or the beck of officials, because this public service, the ferry, so it is based on schedules. It is based on first come, first serve. And I saw Marr share, in fact, a press statement from the Gambia Ferry Services some time ago saying that. So there was absolutely no reason, justification to keep the ferry. And as Marr said, organize yourself to be there on time or wait for the next ferry. Than to have to keep a whole population to wait for you simply because of the position you have. So these privileges all explain as well the failure of our country since independence, because they create these unethical, illegal, unjustified privileges, monetary and non-monetary, that is costing us hugely, and it has to be addressed. And this situation exposes so many things. You just talking with Marr about the private ferry service that we talked about. Now, as Marr said, government should have been able to run a ferry service efficiently, effectively, not just one ferry or 3 ferries at Banyul Bara, but 24-hour multiple ferries. So that if the Gambia ferry service were that competent, in fact, you could have had a special service, for example, that the National Assembly or the Deputy Speaker, you can hire that special service. Some of us who went to Europe and so on, you will find public transport at different kinds of services. All right. So that, if you miss this bus, or this ferry, there's a special service, and imagine if it were in fact 24 hours. You wouldn't even need a special service. You would have just taken the next hour ferry and move on. But why is that not the case? Because since independence, our public officials, our public institutions fail to perform their functions as required by law and by all standards. And so that is why we are in a situation where we have a Gambia Ferry Service, Gambia Ports Authority. You cannot deliver efficient ferry services. And not just fail to deliver it, but delivering it at a cost to, additional cost to citizens. Because it's not just that you are charging us, we are paying the charge, but the delays you are causing us, the inconvenience, you are causing us is having impact on many of our lives. The rest of our lives as we live in this country using these services.
Yeah.
And this is very sad and annoying, Fatou, because Marr started by talking about GRA. And I commend GRA as one institution that has served very well to close loopholes, to raise revenue. All right. Every month, I think they collect nothing less than $1 billion.
$1 billion plus, yeah.
Right. Now, where is this $1 billion coming from?
From us. From us.
From the people. And why are we paying this $1 billion as the people?
For our services.
All right. Now, apart from this revenue collected from the people, the government is taking loans in our name. The last time, I think right now, they said the national debt stands at $110 billion. What about grants they are receiving in our name?
Yeah.
This COVID and this OIC conference that took place, a lot of loans and grants were received.
Just yesterday, the minister signed a 10 million.
All right.
grant.
And so we cannot sit here. You tax people. Gambia has one of the highest total tax rates in the world.
Yeah.
You take so much loans, and then you can only provide one ferry. All right. Not to mention electricity. Look at every sector of this country. The amount of loans and grants that went to NAWEC, to Gamtel, Gamcel, to ports, to GIA, to GCAA, and so on, public enterprises. And what is the purpose of public enterprises? The Auditor General, in his report 2018, I think, said government bailout to SOEs was $11 billion. Now, what services are they providing, really? I mean, ports or ferry services, you have a monopoly.
Yeah.
You are the only ones operating ferry, and that is business that cannot just fail because people have to travel.
Yeah.
So it should be one of the most lucrative businesses to run. All right? And you are not like renting things, like a private company. You are a state-owned. You don't pay for that terminal there. You are not renting it.
Yeah.
Yes, you are not renting it. But go to that terminal where our citizens go to buy a ticket to go and to the waiting room. Yeah. I mean, like that's disrespecting citizens.
Yeah, it's like
that you sit there,
you sandwich
you
people.
go enter that ferry,
Yeah.
go to visit the toilets of that ferry, the seats in that ferry. Complete disregard of the dignity of the people. Yet you go and see what the vehicles we are providing to the directors and the managing directors, to the managers of Gambia Ferry Services, Gambia Ports Authority, and the rest of them. He just talked about the OIC vehicles. You go and spend about $1 billion to just vehicles for 2 days and then distribute them. I saw one vehicle, somebody released one of the OIC vehicles, so a huge SUV, and the number plate, in fact, is private.
Yeah, even advisors have it now.
Yeah. I mean, what is the justification? So I think, Fatou, me and Marr, and maybe a lot of Gambians, we are different. They look at the cup half full, as he's saying, is the cup half full or half empty?
Yeah.
For me, the cup is completely empty. So, but I mean, it is serious.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think this issue of privileges, for me, I'm calling for the Deputy Speaker to resign.
To resign?
Yes, for this misconduct, it's a gross misconduct. As a public officer, he should know better, all right? But to elevate himself to a status that he does not deserve, morally or legally, to make a whole population wait, for me is unethical, and I expect nothing from him than to resign. I demand the resignation of the director of ports, ferry service, for taking that decision, all right, which is unethical, and it is a loss to this country that you have to keep a ferry to wait for 35 minutes, all right, for one individual. It's a complete disregard of the dignity of our people. And so no public officer worth, the dignity of our people. So for me, my position is the Deputy Speaker needs to resign. The Director of Ferry Service should resign or be sacked. Look, Fatou, The reason we are in this situation because impunity prevails. People abuse their powers.
Yeah.
People violate the law. All right. People fail to perform for what they have been elected or appointed to do. Yet they claim incentives. They claim benefits. Look at the bills that they are putting in the National Assembly, for the National Assembly, for the judicial officers, and for all others. So public officers sit there claiming incentives, benefits. Not just that, but they go and plunder, corrupt, embezzle, mismanage our resources. Read the Auditor General's report. Read the Journal Commission report. Read other commission reports to see how public officials deliberately disregard the law. All right? And then we sit here, these few days of rain, look at your street. Look at every street in the Gambia.
Yeah.
Every street in the Gambia should have been paved with proper drainage, with street lighting, with all the necessary public works. That is what we deserve. This is what we should have. But we are not having it because public officers don't do their job. They want to be, given benefits. Then they mismanage our resources. And then we sit there and nothing happens. That's impunity. And the only way to address that is accountability. And I wish all Gambians will join me.
How do we
call on the Deputy Speaker to resign? And the Director of Affairs to resign. That is the call that we should be making. Because look, there has to be discipline in the public. It's called public service, not self-service. So public servants are our servants. That's why I call them our bidan. So we cannot sit here, they are abusing us, our laws, our resources, our services. I mean, this is why this country is a failure. Because we allow abuse and to go unchecked, and it becomes impunity.
Talking about that, I saw a story this morning from my reporters, and I'm thinking, is this Gambia? From the National Assembly, where the Omar Janjamburenam, at the Assembly, brought about a bus service that the National Assembly staff use, that the Speaker has taken for his personal use for complete two Fridays, where the staff cannot even have access to. And this is a staff bus. But this Speaker has his own car. He has all these allowances, responsibility, robing, all these allowances. Even has the former Speaker's vehicle as his personal vehicle, utility vehicle. But yet took a car that is for the ordinary staff that they use for his personal, and the only question I get, but we all get, public service, it's crazy in our country how people look at public office. And I think that is the reason why people are angry about all these bills that are coming. And public servants cannot give us basic services. Madi talked about NAWEC. I think, in fact, before we start the show, I was cautioning my staff to make sure we are on another power unit, just in case NAWEC goes. Because here in our office, from morning to 5 o'clock, you don't get power every day. And as a business, I don't know how you survive that. But these are basic rights. Right to have power.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
What does it take to provide 24/7 electricity supply? So I listened to or watched their ministerial bantaba, for example.
Yeah.
And the Minister of Finance was talking about subsidies that they give. Otherwise, you would have been paid more for fuel, for electricity, for rice, and so on. And I'm sure people like Marr are following that as anti-corruption bodies.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, in the first place, where is the evidence of these subsidies? Really? Where is the evidence? Where did you put it in? But
subsidies for fuel though have gone down, and that's the reason why government is realizing more revenue from it. Previously, they've been putting a lot of money subsidizing fuel, and that's why we're paying less. But 2023, 2024 is not actually the case. That's why we pay more for fuel right now. So fuel subsidies have gone down.
Well, the fuel I've been buying, I know over these past few weeks, unannounced, I just noticed
they increased the price,
it's increased.
Without any,
I'm like, because the issue of subsidies, I know, working with activists in Nigeria, trade unionists, has always been an issue. you put subsidies, but still the rate is high and it increases.
Yeah.
It talks about putting over $1 billion in rice, that there is no duty for rice. It's only CIF and all of those things, which is still costly anyway.
Yeah.
But still, I know the rice bag of rice I buy.
It's the same price.
It's not the same price.
Hasn't gone down. Yeah.
Now, I mean, or energy, petroleum, you can say, as we put all the subsidies there, but we know network services are not getting better. So it raises the question as to really, is it necessary we put subsidies in here? In fact, has the subsidies been put there in the right place and in full? Because you have another country, and which I raised in one of my articles. Why is another country providing 24/7 electricity supply to its citizens? For example, why is another country containing inflation and cost of living? I mean, maintaining it. All right. And why are we not able to do that with all the subsidies that have come? So we cannot sit here, government officials like the finance minister, giving us these general comments and referencing what happens in the rest of the world and COVID and so on, to explain why things are high in this country. No, we elected a government for a purpose. And we cannot be here facing what we are facing, only to be told that because this is what happens in the rest of the world. All right. No. There are countries giving subsidies to their farmers, and their farmers have guaranteed, because of that, food self-sufficiency, food security. And today you go to our farmers, they're not going to be laughing with you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it all comes down to the fact that accountability is very low in this country. And one of the institutions really I am totally impatient with is that very Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs.
Yeah.
Because I always ask myself, which economy are you managing? Because yes, I'm not a trained economist or financial expert, but in the life I have lived, in the study I have done of the Gambia and the rest of the world, I have enough expertise to realize that, with somebody else, with another kind of leadership, government experts, they could have made this country a very well advanced, economically viable country. Because I see a lot of waste, a lot of untapped potential, a lot of underserved or underperformance in many sectors of our economy. And just to round this up, I give you this example. It must be some 15 years ago, around there. Minister of Finance took us to Tendaba camp. Tendaba camp. And I can't remember who the director of budget were, but I was with some of the directors, standing in front of the River Gambia. And I asked them, but look at this, what do you see in this picture? And they cannot pick. I told them, I'm sad. We are standing on the River Gambia. I would have thought we would have been seeing cruise ships, boats transporting tourists up and down, transporting people traveling up and down. I said, this is Tendaba camp. There is a wharf there. Half of it is collapsed. I said, this wharf, I would have thought you would have been seeing goods being, offloaded and unloaded. I would have thought we would have seen, shops, restaurants springing up here, because this is on the river bank. So what kind of economy do you people manage? Don't you see this river is an economic resource? It's huge. What it can give us: food, transportation, sports, tourism, and so on. Why is it not creating wealth for this country? We just laughed. But what I have seen the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs do since then and before that until now, they are the Minister of Taxes, Loans and Grants.
Yeah.
Increasing taxes, increasing loans, increasing grants, and then wasting them.
Yeah. And I top it up, this ministry, what I have seen, I have said it and I keep saying it on every show. I feel, and somebody said I'm wrong, but my opinion, Sidi is one of the worst finance ministers we have ever had in this country.
Terrible.
I have said it, and somebody said I should not say. I said, that's my opinion. As a Gambian, Marr, Sidi tells me our economy is doing better today than it was. But my rice is more expensive today. My cash power is more expensive today. My bread, butter, everything is more expensive today than it was yesterday. And he still tells me that our economy is doing well. It's not doing well for the ordinary Gambian. I don't see that. And my neighbors don't see that. If I don't feel it with my level of resources, I don't expect that neighbor to feel it. And you cannot convince me that we're doing well when I'm not feeling it. It's what I feel. And at this day and age, I see there's this grandfather of mine, when you say anything about Barrow, he comes after you. We have that fight. But the only way I can get him, and I say, I tell him, well, if you're good with all other things, you're not good with cash power, at least we are. But the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank, they told us they're injecting money for basic commodities. There was this plan they had injected, giving tax breaks to people that are bringing rice and other commodities. If you are giving tax breaks, our tax breaks, to people, rich people, to bring basic commodities so that me and you can have basic commodities at a cheaper rate. For all these years, we are not having those basic commodities are cheaper. Why do you continue to give those tax breaks? And me, the ordinary Gambian, I pay my taxes. I go buy rice, I'm paying taxes on anything that I buy. But the rich guy is getting tax breaks. They're getting all these duty-free waivers. They get all these taxes, and they even get money from our treasury to go and bring this food so it becomes affordable to us. And yet it's not affordable. What kind of financial policy is that? If we are not feeling, how long can we continue like that?
Maybe I should just put this information. So what the Minister of Finance do look at in terms of economic performance, let's say for example, they will look at data.
Yeah.
2022, this was the revenue that we have collected. At 2024, this is what has happened. So
yeah.
For them, the GDP there's GDP growth. Is it 3.5 or 5.3, something like that?
Yeah.
Yes. So those are the indicators that they do look at to make their statement. That is the economic performance report from their end. But there's also what we call human development. So they are two different, right? So the economic performance report that they're giving and what you were saying, what you were feeling as the human development,
yeah.
Right? They're different. So you can have more economic activities in a country, right? Goods coming in and out, taxes being paid, duties being paid, the economy is growing, but that goes to the state. Now, the citizen, what they are buying, right? For them, that's what concerns them.
Yes.
The cash power they are buying is expensive.
Way expensive.
The bag of rice they are buying is expensive. The fuel that they are buying is expensive. The vegetables that they are buying from the market, everything has actually increased,
Gone up,
right?
yeah.
So that is what the citizens are. That's what they feel. Now, what is the solution to that?
What is the solution?
Right. The solution is number one. Let's look at the problem. If you levy taxes on this bottle of water, like for example,
yeah.
If it was costing $15 before taxes were levied on it, now if you levy taxes on it, the production company will not sell it for $15 anymore.
Yeah.
Right? They would increase the price in order to match the losses that they have from taxes and other expenditures. The other problem is, for example, you talk about NAWEC. If NAWEC tariffs have increased, like cash power has increased by last year, somewhere around
40%.
April, yes.
Yeah.
So if that increases, right? So the production company that rely on NAWEC, they have to pay more
Yeah.
So the goods that they produce, right, if they were selling it for $20, now that the electricity tariff have increased, obviously they will increase their goods. So you and I will be paying for that.
Yeah.
You understand? They will always flows out all of their expenditures on the citizen, because no business come into existence to lose money.
Yeah.
They are not doing pro bono job. They are not doing charity work. They are business for profit entity for that matter. Now, the other problem is, and I wrote about it, the other regional currencies are doing better than the dollar. You understand? CFA before 450 or even $425, you have $7
Yeah.
Right? Now it goes all the way to 560.
Today is 562.
562,
yeah.
Right? 560. So most of our goods, you know, they are procured from vegetables and others. They procure them from Senegal.
Yeah.
Now obviously if it comes down here, the dollar's purchasing power is weakening. Now obviously the price will actually increase, because you bought it for a foreign currency, which is CFA, $2. You are now selling it in dollars. Obviously you will increase the price. So the solution is, first we need to look at our monetary policy and see how do we strengthen our dollars. How do we control the flow of you know, foreign currencies and capital flights and everything, also illicit financial flows, right? And we've seen that happening, you know, with the Russian company allegedly $30 million, you know, deposited into a Gambian account. People were being paid monthly from that particular account. All of a sudden the money was out of the country. Where did it go? No one have an answer to that question. And then exploitation of our foreign currency market within the country. So there are a host of issues that I think the central bank will have to look at, because that falls under the mandate of the central bank to regulate, you know, the monetary policy of this country. Now, the living condition of our people, right? One of the things that people are complaining is rental. So we have this issue of the cement ongoing. If the cement, you know, or let's say for example, if cement producing companies, you know, are facing certain taxes from the state, if they increase the cement, you know, fees, it gets to the market. Now the real estate companies that are building, right? So we need to first understand the root causes. If they buy this cement, number one, which is expensive, all the way to the factory price $355, but in the market is really exploded, 450,
420,
somewhere around that end. So you look at that as just one product. You look at the rods that are bought from outside, right? With foreign currency, obviously, how expensive it is. The 12mm rods, I think you now buy for about somewhere around $500 or more. Now, all the other ingredients that you have to put together to build a house. If a real estate business spend all of that money, they have to recoup that money from the tenant. So people are complaining, rent the share. Let them look at the problem. You understand? So the root.
But who causes that problem? For example, this cement issue, government was charging these people that bring cement from Senegal and other areas $30 per bag, and they increase it overnight to 180. Like in anywhere in the world, you cannot increase 300%.
I think that was the strategy, was to discourage the importation of cement from outside the borders.
Yes, I had the minister here, and even I had him on Coffee Time. And even Ahmad Ba said they want to protect local consumers. But the disadvantage here is it is us, the general people, that are facing the burden. We're facing the problem. The cement that comes from Senegal and all these places, when they come, and you add the price. Obviously, when they bring it, they add that price onto us, the consumer, number one. Number two, if they are not able to bring the cement, the local producers here, Jar Oil tells us, we do a program with it, they tell us they can supply the country, if they, and which I think is good. Jar Oil and Salam and others can do it. If they can do it, I'm all in support local businesses. That is good. Now, but what we are not seeing is the reduction in their prices.
Yep.
We are, in fact, we are seeing an increase. Yesterday, I bought a bag of cement for 450, which was about 375. JOL tells us in all our shops it's 375, but in other shops they are selling it for 450. Now, it doesn't benefit anybody. You are depriving these people, 60% of who are Gambians, and they bring income. They have Gambian people, they're feeding Gambian, they're feeding their families. You're depriving them of business because they cannot bring cement into the country. Now, the people that are here, they're supplying, but we, the consumers, are also suffering. Yeah. That is a problem. And who causes that? It's government. And number two, this water, a simple bottle of water, before GRA start putting their tax on them, the water bottle was costing, the pack of bottle was 120 or so. Today it's costing about 180 or 150. They have added some amount to it. It's me and you who are paying for that, and we are paying it to the state. And then the state gives all these big corporations these huge tax breaks and all the stuff. But me and you, we are forced to pay these taxes. And at the end of the day, they don't even provide the services that they collect the taxes from. I don't get electricity. I don't get it. I have to have solar in my house, my office, my dad's house, everywhere. I don't get those services. The road services is poor. Every other services that you have in this country is poor. But yet, every single day, their measures from the cement to the water to everything is forcing me to pay more.
So
how can I continue to live in that situation? Marr, it's...
No, I mean, it's really, it has to do, obviously, public policy have an impact to it. But the fact that we are having this conversation is also important. We also need to look at the market exploiters as well. If JRL saying their subs, they're selling it for the factory price 355, the subs 375. Now there are those that the moment they sell cement for 450, they don't, even if the price goes down, they don't go down.
No, they don't.
They go up. So I mean, I was having this conversation. I was like, we need to start, enforcing price control. And some of my colleagues would disagree with me. Oh, we need a free market.
Free market, yeah.
But I said, they're exploiters. And if I'm a neighbor to you, selling cement, and you're selling it for $450, why would I sell it for $300? I wouldn't sell it for $300, even though that is the factory price. Because logically, you're looking at what all the others are doing. Selling it for $450 is, at least, maybe if I'm going to reduce anything, it's going to be $5, which is very insignificant. So I think the exploiters are also really exploiting and destroying the market. But I totally agree with you that anything that is happening, government have a hand in it, right? If government is to stop, it will come to a stop. And I don't think citizens also deserve, because this unaffordable life in this country. I mean, we're going to be seeing vagabonds in this country. People cannot, have their own apartment. They cannot have their own privacy, and it's difficult to digest. But you go to certain households, they have only one meal per day. If you were giving your $200 or $100 the past before, now that is you cannot even have a proper breakfast for a family of 3, talk less of an extended family. And the other sector, which I think do normally contribute to the economy of the country, which is the tourism sector. I've had reports that, oh, we are doing well, tourism, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is we are not doing well with tourism. If you look at our, the amount of tourists that we have been recording before COVID-19, that's 2019, right? Until date, the amount of tourists that came to Gambia in 2019, until date, we are unable to record that number. So we are underperforming. What happened is 2020, obviously COVID, 2021 started increasing a little bit. And tourists, whenever there's election in the country, they avoid, especially countries like Africa,
African countries,
they avoid coming to that country. So 2022, 2023, after everything that has happened and we've moved past this COVID-19 election and blah, 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 we are still unable to record the number of tourists that arrived in this Gambia in 2019. Now, the question that we should be asking is why, right? Madi did talk about, you know, if you have a cruise going around, taking tours around the River Gambia, if you are a European and you come to the Gambia, you would like to explore different things. You are a tourist. That's why you are here for. But you cannot be coming here and at the same time you are seeing the same thing over and over again. Why wouldn't you have so many choices around the country? In fact, a more cheaper destinations within the sub-region. Why wouldn't I go there and explore something different? Look at what Senegal is doing. Look at what Cape Verde is doing. Look at what Guinea-Bissau is doing. We have the same thing going on for over 2 decades. What is new in our tourism sector? If tourists are going to what routes, or should I say different, and they understand this, what is happening with the ferries, why would the tourists come and then go get stranded there for 5 hours? They wouldn't. So we are the problem. The tourism sector, the GCAA, Fatou comes with 5 families at the airport. The first thing he said, give me $20 in cash. You cannot even pay prior, but $20 for each and every member of your family. You pay for all of them. Now you get to, before you pass, they're almost $300, for example, if you're of big entourage, you get that out of the way. Before you get to the, to the hotel, your 3 days worth of hotel room as an individual, you've already paid that at the airport. So I think government decisions, government policies do have impact on economic performance of the country, and if there are no foreign currencies coming into the country, obviously it affects.
It affects.
So, Fatou, you know, our public officials don't want to work. You know, me, I don't beat about the bush. You know, and I don't know how to say things nicely. I just say as it comes to my mind. But the fact is, our public officials don't want to work. Mark talked about records. For example, the number of tourists. Now, this government cannot tell you, and no government in the Gambia ever, this month, this is the number of jobs we have created. You look at a big country like the United States. Every day, every week, every month, they are telling you how many jobs we have created in the country. What that means is, it means you have institutions who have developed tools of monitoring, of record, taking, and so on. And people sit at a table, do the analysis, collect data, and bring it out to inform their decisions, their actions. And that is why countries are developing, particularly those Western countries we talk about, those developed countries. It is nothing other than the fact that you have institutions working, people working. In our country, the government does not work. Now, you mentioned tourism, and I tell people tonight, start from Cape Point, Ocean Bay Hotel, Calypso Bar, drive all the way at 9 o'clock and drive all the way to Turntable. Look at the hotels and restaurants from Bakau to Senegambia to Kujilo, all the place. You see how empty they are. Restaurants you saw last year, today they are closed. You look at restaurants, all the tables, the chairs are bent over, or few people there. Now, for me, that is enough to tell me then tourism is not working. So what is Ministry of Tourism doing? What is GT Board doing? You go to those hotel operators, restaurants, hotels, clubs, and so on. Ask them, what support does Ministry of Tourism or GT Board give you? And they are paying tax to GT Board. What is GT Board helping you to become a good restaurant, to become a good nightclub, to become a viable hotel? It is not there. Because the Ministry of Tourism has to realize, look, we need Gambians as tourists. Why shouldn't I go to a restaurant? Talked about the boats. Why shouldn't we Gambians take a boat from Denton Bridge? A lot of people do go to Lamin Lodge and back. But why can't we as a team just take a boat trip all the way to Basse? Now, for that to happen, Mark talked about And when you are talking, I was like, okay, maybe we should organize a workshop for you, for the Minister of Finance and Permanent Secretary and the director, so you tell them how to run an economy. Really. Because all the issues is talked about, we expect the Minister of Finance to know how to build an economy. The directors there, the managers, to know how do you build an economy? What is foreign exchange? What is taxes? What is monetary policy and all? Because that's why they are appointed.
Yeah,
government has a function. Like we expect Minister of Tourism to know what is tourism, how to build tourism. We expect the Minister of Education to know what is education, how to deliver education services, so that schools are well managed, students perform well. But look at how Gambia and WAS results. You wonder, what is the Minister of Education doing? We expect the Minister of Agriculture to know how do you build an agriculture of a country to guarantee food self-sufficiency, food security. And we sit here, you go to Minister of Agriculture, half of the population are all PhD holders. They have tens of projects, grants and loans amounting to billions of dollars, all sorts of projects. And we sit here, we are importing rice. We are not exporting. We should be exporting so many things. Our port should be filled with a lot of produce that we should be exporting. Quality produce. But why is it not happening? Because the people in the government don't want to work. They want to get incentives. They want to mismanage our resources. And they work for each other. So as I have said, the state of the Gambia is a fraud, it's a scam. Since independence, our state is created for the people who work in the state. All they do is to produce wealth for themselves and produce poverty, deprivation, lack of opportunities for our people. And I challenge the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, invite us here for a debate on that proposition, that they are the way and manner they manage our economy is for themselves and for those businesses, big corporations, to our detriment. Why are you protecting cement producers in the Gambia? And you and me need to build our house. How do you make sure you and me, you and I are able to buy cement to build our home? Is the Minister of Finance thinking about it? How do we make that happen? Then thinking about how do I protect cement producers to make millions of profit on us? That is the mentality. So they are not working for the country. And nobody is holding them to account at all. So they come and put us a budget, a budget that is just scandalous. Every year the budget increases, every year the taxes increases, every year the loans increase, the grants increase, and poverty increase. That's a contradiction in terms.
And that's my thing here. If you are saying we're doing with all these policies, but I'm not feeling, what's the point of doing well? You are supposed working for the betterment of your people, for them to have good services, be able to afford all of these things that you're working. If your numbers are good for the IMF, the World Bank, and all these international partners, but they're not good for me and my grandmother at home, how is that effective for any country? How will we grow? The IMF and the World Bank, they have all this percentage. I don't understand whatever they say. They say, oh, we are doing well, our numbers are this, our numbers are this. But the ordinary Gambian is not feeling that way. How good is well,
This is I never heard you.
yeah, never.
you know, sometimes I don't know. I'm like, maybe I'm looking too deeply, or maybe I have a mental problem.
No, you're not. It's worrying.
But I mean,
I feel the same all the time.
I do not think there is any justification for the state of the country as it is, the state of the economy, the state of infrastructure, you know, and all other issues like you talked about security, you know, so that, I mean, maybe independence is too far away, but let's just take from 2017, this current government. They have not taken, for me, steps to reverse, you know, because the trajectory of the Gambia under Jammeh, you know, which was the longest period we had, well, you know, even Jawara, wasn't a trajectory that would deliver this country. And so for me, it was important, and I thought it was obvious that in 2017, the new government in the Gambia would realize that this country we have to reverse, you know, or we have to divert, you know, maybe not go back on the same path, but we have to take a new path, because the path we've been on since independence, and particularly in the past during dictatorship, is not going to deliver us. And in a sense, they know it themselves, because when I read the presidential manifesto of Barrow 2016, when I read the coalition MOU, you see, okay, here is a man, here is a group that knew where Gambia was is not good. And they knew where Gambia needs to go. And they put it in bullet points in the manifesto. Economic, you know, changes to happen, political changes to happen, institutional reforms to happen, constitutional reforms to happen. They put it in bullet points, action points. So that tells me they know we are not in a good shape. And now when we come in, we are going to change path. And today we are sitting here, we don't have a constitution.
I was coming to that.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming to.
Yeah.
The constitution, you know, we spent so much money and time to consult and have something put, and it was thrown out.
But maybe before
yeah, go ahead.
Because Marr is our expert on that.
Yeah.
But just as I was trying to list, we don't have a constitution.
Yeah.
Now, I can take the approach of many people to look at the cup half full, for example.
Okay.
Look at transitional justice.
Yeah.
All right. Now, some would say, yeah, transitional justice, we are moving there because we now have a Special Accountability Mechanism Act, Special Prosecutor's Office Act created. We have the white paper, you know, even if it is 2 years ago or so,
yeah,
and so on. Some can look at which, as part of the Transitional Justice process, the legal reforms, we have Access to Information Act, and we just have our commissioners.
Yeah.
You can look at, we have a torture, Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act.
Yeah.
And, you know, certainly these are welcome ideas. We have NHRC institution created, which are all positive things that are here. All right. But at the same time,
yeah,
you come to consider something like the former President's Act, for example, the even the Anti-Corruption Act, which is positive in itself.
Yeah.
But then you look at the
some of the provision
from it.
Yeah, they were removed.
It's effectively to weaken it, because the evidence of wealth is critical.
It's critical.
So if you remove provisions like that and also submit it to the discretion or sort of the consultation with the Attorney General, you sort of weaken its powers and so on. So when
you should blame to parliamentarians, because parliamentarians did that.
Yes, I mean, and I say always, system change actually for me should start in the parliament.
Yes, in parliament.
Yeah, and I had that conversation with the former speaker, Madam Denton, and the MPs at the time in the 5th legislature, to tell them, look, this parliament, 5th legislature, is what will make or break the Gambia. You are the bridge between dictatorship and the democracy we should build.
Yeah.
And so the reforms you do here, and you don't have to sit and wait for government to bring you bills. Create your bills, create laws, and so on. But that was a gross failure of that parliament, and I think that's the effect we are seeing in the country. But then we have these laws. I mean, which other law is that? This law about commissions of inquiry.
Commission of inquiry.
Right. Where you go now and change it to make the president pardon people, who have been banned from holding public office because of misconduct and so on. So that in one sense you see things that tell you, okay, we are making gains. And then at the same time, I should mention the President's Act. And
the cybercrime bill where from the TRRC thing, but you see the false news part was taken.
So I get concerned. Like, it looks like you are making one step progress and then coming back one step. And, then you have the security sector reform. I see promotions. They are very good at that. But security sector reform is more than promotions. So that if we look at the conduct of the police, for example, the incidents of arbitrary arrests, the checkpoints all over this country, you wonder what is the point. All right. Until now, the Police Act, the NIA Act, the Gambia Armed Forces Act, the Prisons Act, they are all not reviewed. They are all archaic laws that only empower these security institutions to abuse rights.
And to just add on that, the fact that you did mention about traffic, I think I should use this platform to call on the police and the immigration to stop issuing people license cards that are valid for 1 year. It is contradicting the Motor Traffic Act. Absolutely. It says 3 years.
3 years.
So they should not violate those. They should enforce what is in the law. That's what the police are known for. So let them issue 3 years license to drivers. That is what is in the law, not a year.
Absolutely.
And for me, it's concerning whenever I get to the traffic. And just last week, during the Tamhari actually, I met the traffic. They pulled me out, and we were talking about this lancing issue. And the lady told me it is 1 year. I told the lady it's not 1 year. She said, where is in the law? I pull out the Motor Traffic Act, and then so that is section 27, section 3. This is the law, right? And the guy that saw, he said, but we are not taught this. I said, well, they should tell you the truth. Make research before you go out and start enforcing. So let them stop doing that. And I just wanted to go back to talk about this Ministry of Finance. I don't want it to sound like someone else that is defending the Ministry of Finance. But I think also it could be unfair to put a lot of focus on the Ministry of Finance, because knowing the fact that the Ministry of Finance, they obviously manage the budget. But you have the Minister of Health, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Trade, and others. They all submit their budget to the Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance is not going to say implement this or don't implement that. They administer it and see what is available in the resource envelope, take it to cabinet discuss it there. So all cabinet members discuss, and it gets to Parliament. So now during the implementation, what we are feeling, right, it might not be all blame to the Minister of Finance. You look at the Minister of Trade. We're talking about trade issues, so Minister of Trade also have a hand in that. Seriously. We talk about transportation. Ministry of Transportation have a hand in that. We fuel, petroleum, energy. So all of those should they all have a hand in that. So
they do. They do. But the finance minister manages all of our budget, our money. They told us the 50 million loan that they took from Madi is to create affordable food commodities. That are the conditions of the loan. That's what was approved by the National Assembly. Affordability of basic commodities. When he came to the National Assembly, conditions of the loan, but it was given to an entity that are not even into that business. Sometimes this is why, for me, I see it in those angles. They made those decisions on our behalf. If you say the conditions of this loan is strictly this, and then you give it to somebody and tell them, why 6 months into that, how much 3 months into that, nothing has changed. 50 million is not a small money. That should have impact in our communities. That is why I think it's good to have this conversation and hold them accountable. Because the Ministry of Finance, me, I keep saying it, ñoom problème bi yëpp ñoom la man pour man ñoom la lekk bi cher na dunda bi cher na gas power cher na lépp cher na.
I think Marr is right, and I think that's the point I've been making, that our government doesn't want to work, and here government is all those ministries, the executive and the parliament mainly. They have all the powers, really. They have all the resources, they have the space to sit down and look at this country, these people. How do we create opportunities? How do we create services? How do we create facilities to enable, to facilitate, to empower them to grow? Now, I know the Minister of Trade, for example, some 1 year or 2 years ago, said they were doing some trade survey or something like that. I don't know what has come out of that for now. But then when you look at trade, you know, we have our formal sector, the big corporations and the businesses, as it is, large or small scale or medium scale. But then we have a lot of informal businesses. So when I walk down the street, all these shops I see, you know, I mean, they are businesses. At the end of the day, how do they fit within the mind of the Ministry of Trade as to how do we make this shopkeeper at the corner here expand, grow from a small grocery store, small corner shop to a bigger shop? How do we make that happen? What does this person need in any way you can imagine? And how can we help? But also that young Gambian, I have seen Gambians, and because I have patronized them, young Gambians, men and women, want to selling chicken, doing poultry, selling chicken, you know, or eggs, carpentry, you know, welding shops. And I have gone to those people to patronize them. All right. But then what are we doing to empower these people so that, you know, you really can grow your business, you know? And so a number of them, after 1 year, the business is out. They find that it's not sustainable. Why are they not sustainable? Now, individuals may have their individual issues, which is as a result of their own wrong decisions or so. But also, when I look at the environment, are you protecting that young Gambian doing tailoring shop or doing carpentry as you are protecting cement producers? Now, every office in this country, let's say public offices, they will go and buy, you know, furniture, which may be imported from Dubai or Hong Kong or China or US or so. Now, can we see how do we make sure our public offices buy furniture from our local carpenters? Cotton, before we go and buy cotton like this, how do we make sure you go and buy our cheap cotton from our tie and dye batik people? Decisions like that. I mean, but how do we also give them capital? How do we recognize the fact that inputs like electricity are indispensable? How do we make sure they have electricity? You go to a welding shop by the street, half of the day they are sitting down, there's no electricity.
They cannot work.
Now, so what is the Ministry of Trade? What are they looking at? Are they just looking at the big corporations, or they are looking at those small scale informal sector businesses? And they are the majority, you know, self-employed people doing the things that they should do. Now, I remember, again, this must be about 15 or 20 years ago, or maybe 10 to 15 years. I went to the UN house, UNDP organized a meeting. I was at Tango. I told Mr. Yabo, who used to be my director, no, I don't want to go. So it was a government and the, you know, releasing, and the UNDP, a least developed countries report. There's a report called least developed countries report. And so they brought their government stakeholders at the UN library. So I said, I'm not going. But Yabo said, no, you know, just go. I said, okay, I'll go, but I will not say anything. So I sat in this UN library, you know, some ministers were there, permanent secretaries, all of them, people talking, and the focus was on agriculture. Speaker after speaker lamenting how there are no storage facilities for vegetable people, no marketing opportunities, facilities, how it is difficult to get good produce, quality produce, and so so Fatou, I sat there listening to these people, with fury, honestly. And then either the minister or the UNS rep said like, any more comments, like anything burning. I picked up my hand because I couldn't bear it. I said, when I was coming here, I vowed not to say anything because I've been in those kind of meetings.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to talk. I said, but listening to you people, you had government people from Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Finance, and so on. You sit here lamenting the lack of storage facilities, the challenges our farmers are facing. My question is, who should provide it? Are the farmers to provide that? Or somebody else? You are the government with the responsibility. You have all these projects. Why don't you create, you go, I went to Nyomi Lamin. I found a cold store there. It is built by non-state actors, CSOs. You go, who's supporting Banyunin vegetable market? And such kind of, vegetable garden. And such kind of gardens across. You'll find there civil society organizations like Child Fund or some other Action Aid and so on. As a government, where have you built a cold store market in Basse, in Bansa, in Soma, in everywhere? To make sure that our farmers, our fishermen, fisher people and so on would go and put their produce there. What connections have you created so that our hotels are buying from those gardeners, those women gardeners who bring their produce? This morning, traveling through Brikama market, I see women, laying their beautiful vegetables along the roadside, in this wet street.
Yeah.
So you as government, what are you doing to make sure, and don't tell us, yes, we build a cold store in Banjul or in Tanje or in Bakau. No, we should have those facilities all over the place, and they should have been built. 2019, they brought a loan agreement to the National Assembly for smallholder farmers and so on. I remember at least 5 MPs were around me. I addressed them together. I remember Honorable Samba Jallow was there, Sidia Jata, Suleiman Saho, and 2 or 3 other MPs. And I told them, don't approve this loan agreement. I said, what you need to do, go to Ministry of Finance. They have something called Aid Bulletin. Read that Aid Bulletin. Between 2012 and 2016, the amount of loans and grants in agriculture, by my calculation, the list that is provided, $2.3 billion is what was received as loans and grants. And in the projects that came, this particular project, support to smallholder farmers and women and youth, it is there. So before you approve this loan, as Minister of Finance, Minister of Agriculture, what has happened to that 2.3 billion? Go to Minister of Agriculture. Ladep, FASDEP, Jeep, Nemachoso.
Yeah.
They are there.
Yeah.
And that was the reason why I said we were very unfair if you put a lot of focus
all the blame on. Okay, I accept that.
These institutions, these ministries, they are the core reasons why we're going through what we are going through. Because all of what Madi is saying, they are not rocket science. When government saw how bad our roads are, and they decided that they are going to build the roads in preparation of the OIC, they fix it. Yeah, we have a better road. Yeah. So the question will be, if there was not going to be any OIC, would we have this? Yeah. You understand? So if government wants to solve problems, they can solve problems, right? You look at the Ministry of Fisheries. That's also another underperformed institution that we should be looking at, right? Yeah. And they should be contributing towards increasing the revenue of the country, regulating it, and
one of the most lucrative areas.
Yeah. And this year, they actually, when I looked at the budget, they received less revenue than they compared to the previous year.
Yeah, they did. I think
But they have
was it about
serious revenue sources? You know?
Yeah.
I think in the zone, I cannot remember. They also did the same thing. Was it about they lost 20 million?
They lost almost 20 something. They lost about 20 million or so.
Yeah,
So they lost a lot of money.
When it comes to Ministry of Fisheries.
Yeah, so we should be looking at those core institutions. And you were talking about the Ministry of Trade.
Yeah.
And it just clicked to me what other countries are doing. Have a database of all local businesses, right? Have their financial information, what they are doing, how much they are receiving as revenue, and what their goals are. Now, to avoid those businesses from dying, right? You make that assessment and start giving money to these institutions. And I know they started doing with roots, which is more agricultural related, and the YEP and others. But holistically, a national record of all small-scale businesses, big enterprise, and then others. Then if you get all of that information, because some of this decision that we are making, if they are not, data-driven, we will make a very big mistake. You will end up giving money to one Marr who will misuse that money, and then I will not get anything from it. The government is not going to get anything from it before you realize Marr is out of the country.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that they need to look at, because those businesses create employment.
Yeah.
And the Minister of Trade, I guess employment is under their purview. So if you do that, you're now also looking at, let's say for example, in unproductive regions, it's very hard to say it, but they are unproductive regions like the Sierra, they are dry regions, right?
Yeah.
Look at what is happening there, and how do you support businesses, and then make sure those businesses empower or employ others. You know, when Ablawada was coming, he said he's going to make millionaires.
Millionaires, yeah.
It's simple. Minister of Trade can also make millionaires, but millionaires on condition. I see Madi from Boraba, right? Maybe a dry place. I give $2 million to Madi, but Madi have to come up with a very good business plan and tell me how many people from Boraba are you going to employ.
Yeah.
I give Madi that $2 million, but then also have supervision, right, on that business. And make sure that Madi has a key performance indicator, just like what they are doing with Navigate Orders. If Madi performs, then I increase supporting Madi. If Madi gets to a point where he can repay that money, he repays back that money. At the end of the day, you're killing two birds with one stone. Number one, you have not only created a millionaire. Number two, you've already created employment for the people in Boraba who could not have that employment had it not been you have supported Madi. Number three as well, the business that Madi is having in Boraba might already be, benefit. I mean, it's going to be impacting the people around that end. Let's say, for example, if Madi is, if the company is sewing company, then I have to go all the way to Greater Banjul to do that, paying extra. So I think our ministries have that responsibility. In the same thing with the Ministry of Tourism. If tourists are doing the same thing, and we are not still recording the number of tourists that we were receiving before, we are an advanced state, and local tourism, even without tourists from coming, if you have this wheel around the beach, before people go to the sea and they get drowned, why don't they climb a wheel, pay $300, $500 for 4 minutes, right? They go out, another bike comes in, that's another revenue that is being generated by the Ministry of Tourism. But if you're just waiting for the tourists to come, it's no more routine. They come, hotel, restaurant, ecologists or bird watching, that's it. We need to innovate. The Singapore that Madi is talking about, that is what is happening. People like Marr who love, people like us who love car racing, why not we find a cart somewhere else, get a cart, people come in, before people will go, before the kids, students will do this stunning, killing themselves and killing others, have a F3 or something platform where people come, get on a card for 30 minutes, you pay $1,000, race, and then that's it. You understand? And all the safety measures are there. You make money out of it. If tourists come, so there should be more recreational facilities that will be generating money. So I think that was the reason I say we should not only focus on Minister of Finance, but then all of these institutions. And I think if they do that, you're also reducing the stress level of Gambians. Today, if Fatou is stressed, the beach obviously is a natural gift that we have, right? The sea. But Fatou wants to go somewhere else with the kids and the family to explore something else. But today here, where do we go? Tropic.
Yeah.
After Tropic, where you have to drive long for to see other places. Within this place, how do you make so that you discourage irregular migration? If people are happy from where they are, why do they have to go outside? I mean, Senegal started doing that. You go to their beaches, right? There's a gym facility, sporting facility, basketball facility, and all the other recreational facilities. So this is how you encourage people to stay in your country, work and make it in your country. So if the government, these ministries, if they are ready to develop this country, it's just like that. And they will say, oh, it's not possible, it's not just like this, but it's like this, because that's how all countries have done it, including the Singapore that Madi is talking about. How is it done? Let's collect data. What is the problem of the country, right? The economic, the employment, right? If, let's say, for example, employment is the big issue. How do we fix unemployment in this country? If government cannot, I was reading the SONA, what did the president say? They have about, is it 80,000 or 8,000 vacancies in the government, right? So if government fills all of the vacancy, meaning that's it, unless something new comes to project and all those projects are unsustainable. Now let's look outside government, right? How do you create environment so that small businesses will emerge to be big businesses? We wanted to see the Dr. Ismail Baji grow up to be moguls in this country, but not to close the door for Dr. Ismail Baji to lose his business. We wanted to see our other local businesses, Dabah Malik, his electricity business to grow up to be a big. That's what Nigeria have done for this guy. What's the name? Dangote. How do you make so you empower your Gambians to become multimillionaires? But the problem is, and we have to say it the way it is. Now we'll say it in Wolof. The problem is holding your hat. You understand? Seeing the Bah Malik growing, multimillionaire is going to be better than me, and I'm the one who created the opportunity. You are not creating that opportunity for the Bah Malik. You're creating the opportunity for thousands of Gambians that are going to benefit. We have success stories. We have seen QCell, we have seen AfriCell, we have seen other companies, right? The environment was there for them to grow. Do the same thing for the businesses outside, in Basse. You understand? What do people of Basse like the most? Who comes out with a better business solution that you can support, grow the business, you understand, make sure the business perform, make sure the business excel. The people of Basse are going to be employed from that. And we are complaining of what? Rural urban migration. Why wouldn't people migrate to
there's no service?
Marr, to really expose this to what you are saying. I was at KMC radio yesterday and they are online and they don't have license, for example. Which is a municipality, okay. But do you have terrestrial license to set up a TV?
No.
But you want it. And you need it. And we need Kerr Fatou to be a television station. Yes.
We cannot even have radio's license.
And
there's an embargo.
I know other cases. Why are you stopping that? Because
coincidentally, I don't want to quote you. Coincidentally, when I was talking to her, and I was like, Fatou, you should also benefit from the 40 million. Give institutions like this to grow. But even if they're tough on you, but they need to grow because they are Gambian businesses.
So that was what I was coming to. But that's my point. Our government don't want to work. When they work for themselves. So that you can sit here and identify certain media houses and distribute money among them. Not thinking of how do we build the media, not just in terms of promoting democracy and good governance, but also promoting the economy. Because all these media houses will create employment, will pay tax to government. That's revenue for government. So why don't we have a mentality to see how do we make sure all these media houses have this opportunity? All right, you go and give Joel 50 million. I think it's the Badia loan and stuff like that. This is one company. Why are you not thinking of many other companies? Now, well before that, sometime 2019 or 2020, Central Bank gave undisclosed millions of dollars from our reserve to businesses to buy food commodities.
Food commodities, yeah. They said they want
Until
to,
today, they have not disclosed the full amount.
they said they want to create millionaires.
Yeah, and the number of the names of those businesses they give.
We still
this
don't
is
know.
money from our national reserve
But we
that
don't.
did not go to the National Assembly. So you mentioned Boraba. You know, Boraba is not right.
There's no light. There's no light in Boraba.
Right? No, Boraba is the city of.
Do you have lights?
Of lights. Yes. No, but the point is,
Yeah.
we have salt water.
Yeah.
River Gambia flows by us. And that Boraba region, from Bansang all the way down to Boraba to Sankulekunda, all the way to Prikamaba to Jahali, can be a food basket of the Gambia. I mean, rice for the Gambia. That's why we had the Jahal Pachar project. The Chinese were heavy in between Boraba, Sankulekunda, and Janjambure. We call that area Chinese. Those pharaohs, we call them Chinese or World Bank. All right. Now, those places are dry. Our parents would tell you their harvest, they harvest until, and that harvest, they have it until the next harvest to show the amount of the volume of produce they make. Now, today you go to CRR, you will have Indian companies come to our villages. They take a piece of land, put up a plantation, banana plantation there, and they're making money. Now, like you rightly said, how do we, these small scale, farmers, these smallholder farmers, which are across the country? Because I went to Netherlands. It's a tiny country like the Gambia. I don't see plantations of tens of kilometers. Small family farms. And that country is producing more food than any country in the world, more or less. Small country, tiny country. Because they are supporting farmers. Now, you cannot sit here, I had the Minister of Information to say how much they are supporting farmers. Now, fertilizer is from 1,150 to 1,100. $50 is the difference. And you are bragging about that. All right. And those farmers produce their produce. You go and impose price on them and tell them this is world price, for groundnut. Why? Are you the one who went to farm there? Why are you controlling their price, determining their price?
And this is why it is important to create that market.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of selling it to the government, if you have a processing company,
Right.
you give money to 1 euro, establish
So it's
a
a chain.
processing company. Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of you determining that amount, the farmers get to Euro's company, sell it there, Euro process it, and then it becomes the finished product, and it gets down to the country. And then that's why this discourse on what they call circular economy, right? We cannot achieve that if what is produced is given to you and then you export it. What is produced is processed within, sold within, used within, recycled within, and the money stays in the country. But this capital flight or the issue that we are talking about, if what you've said about the Indians is something that they can learn from, why don't you give one Fatou the amount to do the same thing? Why do we have to sit and wait and be exploited? So the government shouldn't be allowing that, creating that environment.
Yeah. So there are multiple ways for our government to develop this country, to grow our economy, to support our private sector, small-scale businesses, entrepreneurs, and so on. Nothing stops them.
But government is trying to cut costs now, Madi.
No, that is not going to be for free.
They are cutting costs on travels because...
But that has happened several times. Several
They
times.
said, you cut costs on travel, you are buying vehicle for $12 million. All right? You are maintaining offices that are just taking away our money. What is the purpose of the maintaining the First Lady's office or office for presidential advisor? What is the purpose? Why are offices, government offices, renting? Ministry of Interior, for example, is renting. You have many agencies under Ministry of Interior renting. Why don't you make investment to go and build a massive public building here, and agencies come there and occupy it?
And the renting fee is not on.
It's on control.
It's about $45,000, and where central bank is hosted, one floor when they were renting it, one floor was $35,000.
Yeah.
And the whole building, how much will that cost?
If central bank is paying their rent in dollars, how do you think we will ever control inflation?
Which would be illegal.
No, what I'm saying, most of the businesses pay rent in foreign currencies.
Which is illegal.
And trade in foreign currencies. Yesterday, someone was supposed to pay me and said, oh, I have SEFA. But can you imagine? This is a big institution.
By law, the legal tender in the Gambia
it's Dalasi. This is why our currency is not doing well against any currency.
I am not sure how they are paying, whether in Dalasi or in...
But the amount, yeah.
Because I personally made that inquiry at the time, and the owner said the floor is $35,000. I mean, so many other rental places.
You go to Jimpek, somebody told me, oh, I pay $10,000 every 6 months. And I said, but why do you pay in dollars?
Yeah. But the point is, public offices like the central bank and so on
cannot be rented.
Why would you be renting offices that you know very well this is going to be permanent? And this is not some two-room office. This is an edifice.
Yeah. And you cannot move
that's
from
not
those
sustainable.
buildings.
Yeah. And that's why in one of my programs, I said we have quadrangle. How many ministries are in that quadrangle?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why not the government, instead of paying $45,000 for one ministry and $30,000 for one other ministry, why don't you come up with a strategy, build another quadrangle? I call it quadrangle number 2.
Yeah.
Right? And then host as much ministries as possible. Number one, what you are doing is you are cutting all the rental expenditure in that particular. We have to know that the rental fees are not static. They keep evolving every now and then. If the property owner says the rental fee is $35,000 or the equivalent in Dalasi, whenever the dollar appreciates, the amount increases.
Yeah.
If the Dalasi depreciates, still you're paying the equivalent in dollars. So that is how we should be thinking to be cost effective. And now that's our problem in our budget execution, right? Our ministries, vote controllers, and to just come back to say, I don't want you guys to see me as someone else that is defending the minister.
No, understand.
But the reality is, you see a minister in their budget preparation, they put a fuel coupon of somewhere around $30,000 to $50,000 a month. Are you going here to Guinea-Bissau every day for a meeting? It's unsustainable. That is pay the $50,000 to a junior staff and see how you will attract quality service delivery in the government. But you give a minister a huge privilege and $30,000 to $50,000 is fuel coupon, and then you're paying the one who's doing the donkey job $3,000, $5,000. It's not going to work. So we have to really sit back. This moratorium on travel, blah blah blah. It's not going to work. The core problem is our spending attitude, right? If you come up with the budget, as cabinet, I should be able to look at your budget to see whether your budget, if for example, is this core sectors, it is a proper program, is it tackling the core issues, and cut all the other expenditures and flush it in there. So 50,000 every month, you multiply that by 12, give it to a small business and see what they're going to achieve. Can a minister sacrifice and say, look, I will get 10,000 or at most 15,000 fuel coupon, and give the rest to a small business, and then assess how that business is going to evolve over time within a period of 12 months. Then other ministries should follow suit. I think that is where the core problem is, and I think that's what National Assembly should be looking at. And I think for me, the reason why I'm so passionate about the budget, I remember in 2017 when I engaged Madi on our first budget session, he said, this budget is about a life and death matter, and I will never forget about the quote at IRI, right? And that thing stuck in my mind growing up in this space. And I said, this budget, this is the country's energy, right? Why not we put it into sectors that will impact lives, not sectors that will impact the life of ministers.
Individuals.
You know, you're traveling, I don't have any problem with that as far as it is bringing good things to the country. But traveling here and there, what is your performance of the millions of dollars that has been given to you? And not only that, we have to be mindful that certain institutions spend their monies. Right? If they overspend their money, what are they bringing in? The Ministry of Health overspend their money every year, most of the year. Ministry of Agriculture, right? What is the rationale behind the overspending? What are you producing? Because for me, agriculture, if you're still buying rice, right, then it becomes really a worry for me if all of these projects are tackling food self-sufficiency, and for years we have not achieved that.
Seen that. Now, one thing you said, which is very important, is how ministries and individuals in all these departments work, and that brings to mind corruption. And I know your institution is very much passionate about that. That's your kind of area. The anti-corruption bill is done. I think we're just waiting for them to have the commissioners and get it set up. But it seems like the government is kind of serious about this. We have seen prosecutions. Today I read from my team, the former Minister of Land is being charged. You know, he went to court on 27 counts. We saw the Banja case. It seems, I mean, they're slow, but is there a sign of they're trying to do something?
So there are two sides of the coin here.
Okay.
One side of the coin, we've seen them taking efforts. Obviously, it's a impressive thing that the government comes out and then state that this particular state national level officer is accused of, has been found wanting of corruption, and prosecution is
Ministry of Health people also are going to court.
Ministry of Health, the 10 million, and then the fisheries scandal. Those are impressive. We should encourage that, right? Now the other side of the coin is it's important to see accountability happening in its fullest. What it does is it becomes a deterrence. Right? If you prosecute someone else and the person serves the full jail time, it becomes a lesson to anyone that in fact have the intention of committing that act. Right? And in law, they said if a man can prohibit, if a man can predict the consequence of their action, they will act justly. You understand? But if this pardoning is happening, today you get someone else jailed for 6 months or a year and then free it. One you know, I don't want to use the full, my wife is a full
okay.
But let's say one individual when one Ibrahima, which is a common name in Gambia, one Ibrahima will say, okay, I can steal $5 million, go to jail for a year and will not be able to pay back that money. But if I get out of jail, I use that money to build my life. You understand? So I think that is the reason why the Anti-Corruption Commission cannot wait, and that's why we have been pushing. Is over 7 months now since that happened, and we are advocating, we are pushing, and then make sure in the budget of 2025 that is allocated. The Ministry of Justice do something in recruiting those commissioners. So that the work is done, because corruption comes in two ways. What happens at the ferry with the deputy speaker, that in fact itself can be termed as corruption. Because what is the definition of corruption? If you abuse your power for private gain, it's not always about money. So you are the deputy speaker with your tie, you just make a call, abusing your power to help to all of those wait for me. And that's how people are going to perceive, and that's why people were angry. Corruption triggers anger. Corruption triggers mob groups in the country. Corruption triggers insecurity, and these are the kind of issues. You saw the video, people were insulting, and I think for me it was not cool to insult someone else and someone's parents because of their conduct. But do not trigger people's anger, do not trigger serious anger based on your conduct, because we are no more in Jammeh era. The generation have moved, and one thing the government have to understand, and this is manifested in Kenya, when the Gen Z came out, they say we are not our parents. We are not all about rhetoric. We are not all about we promise. We want to see results. And it's the same thing that the Gambia's Gen Z, this generation, people want to see results. Whatever you do, they just want to see it happening. Before our parents can say they're too patient, right? They can be patient with that. But our population want to see results in anti-corruption issues. Right? Someone else is found. Yesterday I was listening to news. A Chinese public officer was sentenced to 20 or 27 years for just receiving a bribe.
Yeah.
Right? How many bribes have our public officials received? We look at the budget. I look at the budget every single week. I go through the budget. You look at the manpower budget, and you see a public officer whose top public officer whose salary is about $30,000 to $35,000. But you will know that the living standard of that individual does not commensurate to what is earning.
No.
And the government knows that. The people working with that people knows that. So where is this money coming from? Because in law, you are prohibited from having any source of income or any source of employment if you don't have a business before. Even if you have a business, as far as you are given a position, you are prohibited from working for that business entity. So if you are prohibited from having extra source of income and you're receiving $35,000 and you're living a life that is worth $300,000 a month, then it's a question. The government knows this. Where is the problem? And they know where the answer is. So I think for me, aside the economic crime, economic or financial corruption, the behavioral aspect of it, negligence.
Yeah.
Right? Negligence has cost lives in this country. And it is that negligence that has cost over 70 children their lives in this country. It is the negligence at the ferry that has cost the life of an individual in the ferry, right? It is the negligence of our health sector that nurse failed to attend to a patient whose life could have been prevented and whose life could have been saved, but because of negligence, that person lost their life.
Yeah.
It is negligence now for so many decades that people procure parts, or should I say negligently procure generators that they know are not in full condition, right?
Ferry too, Al Jamdo.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
I think
it is.
It is a cancer that has spread, but it is a cancer that is treatable, and the solution to that, or the medication to that, is not attitudinal change, which I keep saying. Attitudinal change is like a cloth. You wear it today, tomorrow you can remove it. We need enforcement. We need strong institutions. We need part of that strong institution, the Anti-Corruption Commission, to put this to an end.
And finally, the minister said, the president said at the SONA that we will have the draft constitution. Yesterday, 2 days ago, tabled. 2 days ago, the Solicitor General also at the Ministry of Information press conference said the cabinet has reviewed it, it's going to be gazetted, and it's going to be presented at the National Assembly. So that seems very good, and I think we should all be happy. But my concern, if the draft constitution is coming to Parliament, number one, why are you bringing the Judicial Commissioner's bill? Why are you bringing all of these bills piecemeal? Because they are all in the draft. The election bill is there in the draft. The judicial thing is there. All of these bills, they are coming in piecemeal. They are all in the draft constitution. If we know that the draft is coming, why are we bringing all of these things? Because they're just picking and bringing them, because they know the numbers is there to approve it. So let's get all of these ones. But if we are bringing the main thing, why do we have to bring this in piecemeal? What does that make you? Does that make you feel like we are going to have the bill, the draft?
I am positive that the draft constitution is going to come. The plan of the government, according to the Minister of Justice, was to gazette it in by end of June.
Yes.
So, but the ultimate goal of the government is to have the draft constitution before the end of this year.
Yeah.
So now, first, I just wanted to make a call to action to, constitutional stakeholders.
Yeah.
The religious groups, the political parties, and parliamentarians, and the government to be like this, united for the interests of the Gambia. The constitution that is coming is not for any sector and any sect. or any group is for the Gambians. We all agree. When we had this constitution, we want convergence. Everyone agreed that we need a constitution. Political parties, government, they all publicly stated that there is need for constitutional reform. Now, it should not be politicized. Unfortunately, that's what we have experienced previously. And I think if this time around, if the constitution is rejected, then we should forget about having a constitutional reform, right? And then do these piecemeal reforms that we have been doing. But there are two things in law. What your concern is the bills coming in and the constitution also at the same time coming in. So the constitution is the parent document. Even if it is passed, there's still going to be bills that will further elaborate a particular provision that the constitution have already laid the foundation on. So the constitution is coming in, but I'm sure the issue of the judicial remuneration is already addressed. I'm sure they have worked on that, and I got information from Parliament that the judicial remuneration bill that everyone is concerned about is not formally, tabled. It's not formally tabled by the Minister of Justice, and they are information that they have put it on to a hold. The other bills that have already passed, what is going to happen if the constitution comes into effect? If those bills, part of it, if it is inconsistent with the law, the constitution, yes, then they will have to amend that part of that bill. So it's still okay for bills to be coming in, but as far as this new constitution comes, if all the legislations are not compatible with it, then they will have to either repeal it or, and in repealing, I don't want to get into the technicalities. They have express repeal and implied repeal in drafting a bill, but what is going to happen is we're going to see more bills coming in, fulfilling the constitutional mandate. In fact, this judicial remuneration bill is also fulfilling a constitutional mandate or constitutional, what the constitution dictates, that there should be a bill that will administer or lay how the judges are going to be remunerated and others. So the content depends on obviously public policy now, and public policy here is for me, the way I keep saying it. So when we say public policy, sometimes people think the public policy at the government, but I also say another public policy, which is the citizen public policy. You understand? Because government derives its authority from the citizens, right? So if the general public policy is that a particular legislation is not in the interest of the citizens, not to be specific with the judicial remuneration, but any other legislation that is come to Parliament, the public will always react. And it's a good thing that the public have started, building interest in legislations. We've seen the FGM, right? The public bill, you have for and against. The judicial remuneration, you have for and against. The Parliament, their pensions and salary, you have for and against. So we should encourage that culture of people having interest, and what that will achieve is parliamentary accountability. Parliamentarians knowing that if they misbehave, they will be held accountable for them. And then that's what actually happened in the last parliament. Most of those that were voted out, obviously some of them because they are constituents. It was not about political party. And in our election observation report, that's one of the things that I've sensed, is the parliamentary election was not about political party. It was about an individual. Some of those votes were protest votes against the decision that we have made by a particular parliamentarian in the 5th legislature. So I think it's something that we should comment.
Madi, do you think the pressure from the young people was one of the reasons why the judicial bill is put on hold? And if yes, do you think it's going to be put on hold for, forever, or is it just to distract and then come up with more divide? Because sometimes they know people are talking and they'll just say okay, and then go lobby more from the National Assembly, because this is a bill that was thrown out, and then of course there will have been a lot of lobbying. I can tell you, if it was tabled, it would have passed, because I have spoken to National Assembly members who will tell you, I think it is fair to give the judiciary this, because they had voted against it.
Yeah.
But do you think it's because of the protests and all the...
Well, as Marr said, there is public interest has been generated, which is very important. Popular participation is critical in democracy and good governance. So that is what we are seeing. So which means anytime they bring that bill, and I guess many other bills, people will react because the interest has already been generated. So to say we need a judicial officer's bill.
Yes.
The issue is certainly the content of
the content
bill.
Of it, yeah.
In principle, I agree that judicial officers, judges,
and magistrates, I believe,
should have incentives, should have benefits in office and out of office, given the nature of their job and so on. Yes, but again, it's a question of what is the content. Should the gratuity be, this much or that much for this period or that period? Should the pension be, in the way it is structured, or not? Should there be a lump sum to the estate if, the person does or not? And so a lot of the allowances and things are there, which is not just for the judiciary, but even the National Assembly, salaries and pensions, and certainly the rest of the public service. There needs to be some common sense in the way the incentive regime is structured, because I think the incentive regime in the government since independence is discriminatory, is unfair, unjust, unethical. So it benefits some public officers amazingly, but it impoverishes others. Whilst overall, those incentives are not generating the performance and delivery of services that citizens should enjoy. I get approached by people for various human rights issues, for example.
Yeah.
And I've been approached by individuals who are in the court for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, pursuing a case, which, you clearly see it is very obvious. In some cases, judgment has been given, execution is a problem, the sheriff cannot make it happen, or where the case continues to drag. Not to mention the lawyers themselves also, one person jumping from one lawyer to another lawyer, being duped, all right? And that, for me, shows overall the legal system in the Gambia needs to serve the Gambian people. So we cannot just ignore all of those issues and just imagine, therefore, yes, judges should just have this. The quality of justice delivery, the affordability, the ease with which Gambians are able to access the justice system, and obtain justice cannot be ignored. All right, cases that should take 1 week cannot be dragging for 3 months. We've had magistrates and judges adjourn cases because their vehicle something has happened, or the driver is not there,
or because there's no cash power,
ceremony,
or there's no cash power in the court.
There's no cash power in the court.
Yeah.
You go to the courts, basic services.
There's no
PA system, AC,
no
lighting,
fan.
Bare benches.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a house of justice.
These magistrates and judges,
so
they work
the
on that.
very nature of the houses of justice.
Yes, yeah.
I tell people, go to Brikama High Court, or go to Bundum Magistrates Court, and so on. The quality of those houses, the services there are not helping the people. And so we cannot ignore that and just assume, in the United States, in Nigeria, they give, judges this incentive, so Gambia should also give it. No, the story has to be more than that. So apart from that, the issue I want to talk about is the Constitution. All right. Now, you see, you said we should be happy, I think, because I'm not happy there. All right. Now, I know Marr and his team are doing, a lot of effort for the Constitution. But you see, as he said, the Constitution is not for the cabinet, all right, and for the Parliament.
Yeah.
So what I expect is for a president to have a sense of responsibility, to have an understanding of the importance of a constitution, to have an appreciation of the state at which the Gambia is right now, and for which we need a new constitution, to therefore get up and take a responsible approach for us to have a constitution. After having woefully failed the country with the 2020 draft, because it failed thanks to them, to him and his team, wasting $116 million. Now, they cannot sit here, the Justice Minister cannot just sit there and tell us, Cabinet has looked at the constitutional draft, and so by June we are going to gazette it.
Yeah.
This is not their constitution. This is the constitution of you and me and Marr and every Gambian. So what I would expect is for the president, all right, the cabinet to say, look, this constitution, how do we create a broad-based set of Gambians and, you know, bring it before them so that we get consensus, the unity he's talking about, so that we have these, all these stakeholders, we have this unity, consensus about this constitution, so that if you all agree, now let us go and gazette it. And then, you know, we send it to the IC for referendum.
Yeah.
But if they don't do that, you go, that draft they are going to gazette, we are not going to see it.
But the thing is, that draft, do we know exactly what is in that draft? Is it the same one that they did? Or is it?
That is the point.
Oh my
No,
God.
we don't know.
The one that they are going to gazette, we don't know. And look, this country belongs to all of us. I know when the draft came at that time, some people would say, if they said the term limit should not start when this, let us just leave it and just have a constitution. In principle, I don't agree with that. You see, this country is a republic.
Yeah.
All right? The sovereignty of the Gambia resides in the people of the Gambia. So we need a constitution that manifests all the democratic and republican values. All right? So you cannot just push us a constitution which we feel trapped, which we feel helpless, that, okay, because this is what they want, let us just accept it, for us to have a constitution. I don't think, you know, the cabinet should put us in that situation, because if they do, it is going to fail again.
Yeah.
And if it fails again, I think that is disaster.
Yeah, and it looks like it might, because some politicians have said it. I hosted the UDP leader here. He said, if they touch anything from the 2020 draft that was prepared by the Gambian people, we are not going for it, because they don't have the supreme power among themselves, 20 of them, 23 of them, to decide this and this and just gazette that for us. It has to be the draft, the 2020 draft, that the entire country, the committee worked on, and then we take it to the people. Now, if we don't know, that's my concern. When I saw it, I'm like, this is enticing, this is interesting, but nobody knows what is in that draft. And that is what we should be pushing for, Marr. Yeah. People like you, this is where you work.
No, definitely.
This is the area you work on.
Not only myself, but even civil society, we concerned with the fact that we don't know the discussion that is going on right now, right? What is being amended, what is being touched, what are the consensus on those issues? You cannot just involve different representatives. You go see it and then get a consultant and do that review. That is not the conventional way of constitutional building, because what is going to happen is you can put all of this effort, and Gambians are too sober to be taken for a ride. What is going to happen when it gets in there, people are going to go through every single line, and they will come out and they start protesting against that constitution. And then our dream to have this constitutional reform is going to be lost. So in other countries, in fact, you know what they do? They elect people that will draft the constitution, not appoint. They will elect. The people will elect. Countries like Chile, they will elect. And once they are done electing those people, they will prepare the draft, publish the draft, go back to the people, not parliament, go back to the people review it, and then it goes to referendum, right? So, you know, that we have not taken that, approach, which I think is one of the best way, because it's going to prevent politics, too much politics in the process. So I think what is happening, we all want a constitution, and I will call on to the I know he's Mr. Mane, a very sober, how to call it, politician from UDP.
Oh, Mr. Mane,
yes,
we
engage him at the Constitution with one convergence. He and Lara is one of those that I listen a lot to. And he said something very, 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 strong. And even Usainu Dabo also came, and he said something that is very, very strong, and it still stick to my mind. And he built hope that, look, be hopeful that if this constitution comes to parliament, it will pass with absolute majority. And that's what we want from all politicians. That's for to make that stand. So I think if things are happening under the carpet, right? If it comes out, people are going to feel left out, right? It will be a miracle if it works.
It will be a miracle.
It will be a miracle if it works that way. But I still call for unity and consensus in this.
I mean, that's gonna be a problem if somebody like you don't know anything about. You guys don't know what is in this draft.
We don't.
Then there's a problem.
As
That's
Marr said,
yeah.
constitution building, one has to understand what a constitution is.
Yeah.
And the example of Chile he gave is significant. Another country, Kenya, had a new constitution in 2010. They constituted what they call a constituent assembly.
Yeah.
A broad section of Kenyans were put in that body to draft the constitution, with expert support. After the draft of all the processes, consensus arrived at, they sent it to parliament, and there was a referendum. Now, the approach we took in 2020, I spoke against it in 2020, that it is a wrong approach. If you recall, in those days, I was one person who was saying, don't touch our constitution.
Yeah.
The National Assembly members should not touch.
Yeah.
Now, people would say, yeah, but anything that comes to the National Assembly as a bill, they have a right to touch it.
Yeah.
Now, the simple reason was that for me, the draft constitution should not have gone to the National Assembly.
It should have gone to the people.
Yeah, because the National Assembly has no legal constitutional mandate to create another constitution. Because the National Assembly is established by the existing constitution. The existing constitution has no provision in it for its repeal. It has only provisions for its amendment. All right, repeal of certain sections, or amending certain sections, either through a referendum or through a process in the National Assembly. So the National Assembly has no role to go and create another constitution to replace this constitution. So that is for the people to do. All right. So for me, in 2020, what we should have done, having the CRC do all that work, we engage to have a consensus. All right. We take the draft to a referendum, and when that referendum, the yes vote wins, that constitution in it is already there, that this constitution will come into force upon being voted yes, and automatically repealing the 1997 constitution, and life continues. But the moment you take something to the National Assembly, there will be party capture.
Yeah.
There will be individual capture, and we have seen how parliamentarians, for selfish interests, for party interests, took positions.
Yeah.
And it will fail.
Yeah.
And it has failed. And if you take the same approach again,
it will fail.
It is going to fail. So that is why I'm asking the President and the Minister of Justice to provide him good guidance. All right. We have experts here. They will tell you across the world how various constitutions have been created. Because this is not something we are the first to do.
No.
Yes, we can learn from the experience of other people. He just mentioned Chile. Why don't we take that approach and have a constitution that is going to usher in not just the Third Republic, but it is going to usher in a new dispensation that, Gambia breaks away from the past completely. To be your legacy. Especially for a president that has served one term, and you are going to serve your 2 terms, you are going to complete it. If you serve 2 terms, that is enough. So for me, my advice to the president is, look, take an approach that is inclusive, that is participatory, that is, common sense in the way constitutions are built. Abandon all political ambitions, selfish ambitions. Don't be there being misguided by so-called, advisors and, technocrats who are just, they are looking for themselves. All right? Take an approach that is going to give us a proper constitution. And that approach is there. It's a very simple approach. So that before December, we have a new constitution.
Now, Madi, finally, I have just 3 minutes. All of this that we have discussed, the role of the opposition and civil society, there cannot be a meaningful democracy if we don't have a vibrant opposition and civil society. Now, it is only in Gambia you see government doing all of this. Madi speaks up there, Marr speaks there, another person, that's it.
3 days.
2 days. Somebody said this to me. One government, it's a minister, he said, I'll DM social media, I'll for 2 days, I bang kudo enana. Now they have gotten used to it. They know we are going to talk about it. We're going to write about it. We talk about it 3 days. Then that's it. We are gone. Something else comes up. And life goes on. Nothing happens. Do we have a strong opposition and a vibrant civil society that is holding government accountable? Honest, do we have it?
We have our own weaknesses within civil society. The vibrancy, as felt in countries like Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya, we don't have that here, unfortunately. And we've done a lot of training, engaging people on advocacy, how you become consistent on one particular issue, which can take you years, right, to achieve. So people, tend to give up early and then move to another thing. And we keep having this training on do not be distracted by government action. If you have a goal that you want to achieve on advocacy, you focus on it. So it's a challenge that I have to admit at civil society, something that we should definitely work on, including that the media. We should see media following up one particular issue every now and then. But at the same time as well, for the opposition, we know the active oppositions in this country is UDP, PDOIS, and sometimes GDC, right? Sometimes. And I think that should not be the case. And I think even the active ones, UDP, PDOIS, they have to put a lot of pressure on the government, at the same time working with government in addressing certain issues. But yes, there are challenges across the board.
Well, Madi?
Yeah, I think, like you said about the civil society, we could have been doing a lot more, a lot more. So I see positives, which we need to sustain. For example, Marr himself is a good example. His organization, and I think with others, took IEC and some other issues
to court. Yeah.
Now, litigation is something our CSOs need to take.
Yeah.
Up. It's part of advocacy. That activism. So advocacy and activism has to be taken up, and litigation is one tool.
Yeah.
That need to be undertaken consistently, vigorously. So we've seen those actions being taken. But even in this FGM issue, we've seen civil society, particularly women's rights organizations, mobilize. In the transitional justice also, we see victim associations and women's rights groups. Those ones are really positive.
Yeah.
But when you look at the myriad of issues, you realize, okay, action is still more necessary. And a lot of the time we are approaching things from that pacifist point of view, the trainings, the workshops, the conferences, the courtesy calls and so on, which has to continue. But if one also understands the nature of government and the nature of democracy across the world in history, you also need protest.
Yes.
To make things happen. So for me, two fundamental tools in advocacy, protest and litigation, are two tools our civil society need to take up, very, very strongly.
Yeah.
Yes. In terms of the opposition, I think one has to commend UDP.
Yeah.
Yes, really. Even though there are so many gaps, I mean, that is, they also could have addressed many things.
Yeah. Considering their stance,
address them to the end. The last case regarding the case about the governors.
Yes.
I think I'm disappointed that
the judge
UDP didn't go to the end. Eventually the case was dismissed because I think UDP did not appear in court. All right, simply because I think the government went back and withdrew all the governors.
They should have,
Yeah, but it was very significant. They took that matter to court, but they should have gone to get judgment from it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they challenge a number of issues in court, I think that's what political parties need to do. So litigation is indispensable.
Yeah.
So I would say they need to. There are so many issues they need to take to the courts.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, they speak up a lot of things. Last time, Hussein was speaking about
the land issues.
The land issue.
And the government came out.
And the government has to come out. So because political parties are really accountability tools. So it is very sad that we have 19 about registered political parties. And some of them, I think their names even have gotten out of our minds because we don't hear. I think that is very bad.
Yeah.
But for UDP, maybe because they are also the largest opposition, and the history and so on.
Yeah.
But I still think they can do more and they should do more.
Yeah.
And I hope they and GTC will come out of their backyard and come to the front as vigorously as possible. But also to say there needs consistency.
Yeah.
And there needs like vigilance. Now, UDP is a large party. It's the second largest party in the parliament. And I saw their vote on the FGM issue, which is really disappointing.
Yeah.
And but also over the past 8 years that UDP has been in parliament, how many private members bill
have they
brought as a political party and their candidates? I mean, their MPs. All right. How many of the tools in the constitution, because not just litigation, all right, but also to exercise the powers you have in the constitution.
Yeah.
Section 75, motion of censure, gives power to parliamentarians to dismiss the vice president or a minister for misconduct, for underperformance, and so on. And they have lamented, their members have lamented at the poor performance of ministers and so on. Why don't you employ that?
Try to trigger it. Yeah.
Section 67 on impeachment of the president gives you that power as a parliamentarian. Why don't you use that? For the many unconstitutional actions, decisions by the president. All right. So sometimes I wonder what is UDP's legislative agenda, really? So because all these powers and tools are there for parliamentarians to use and to say not just them alone, but all the other parties that have members in the parliament. These are all tools you have to discipline the executive, because our executive is really wayward and they have to be disciplined. So, and finally, protest.
Yes.
Our political parties have to know that, and so to be fair to them, though, I think Youth Wing had organized a protest against corruption at one point, and maybe others. But, that is what we know about political parties.
Yeah.
We see that and hear that every day across the globe. So the good governance of this country, the protection, the promotion of democracy and human rights in this country, political parties are in the center and front of it.
Yeah.
They have to use their parliamentary powers provided to them by the standing orders and the constitution. They have to use litigation. They have to use protest, and they have to use, naming and shaming, methods. So practically these are stuff civil society can do, but civil society don't have parliamentary powers as, in that case.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, this is the issue in the Gambia. So we see good actions, like I mentioned about Gambia Participate and others that came together.
Yeah.
But how do we sustain this? Is where, because when Gambia Participate took IIC to court about the attestation, what did they do after? With their partners. At the end of the day, attestation did not stop. It continued. It is still continuing.
Yeah.
Now, what did civil society do to come together to say, look, Supreme Court has decided this, and that is where protests should have taken place to make sure IEC stop, because that's a Supreme Court ruling already on it. Look at the issue of diaspora voting.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court said, Gambians diaspora have to vote.
And
what did civil society do to take that judgment to another level? All right. So for me, our civil society also has this challenge generally of leadership and strategy. We have Tango, we have all of these other networks that are around and the university CSOs, but what leadership are we providing? Now, if others do provide a leadership like in that case, we need strategy now to make sure that doesn't just dissipate like that. All right. So and that is why a minister would have the audacity to tell you, yes, you can talk 2 days, it will be all over.
That's it.
And that is it. Look at the issue of the ferries. Yes, they took action.
Yep.
But we civil society joined them. And then since then, what has happened? Because I think the agreement was the 3 ferries would have been repaired and brought to the sea.
Yeah.
Only 1 ferry is running. But even Marr has, I think, given up on that.
Marr is writing every day. I see Marr.
I know, but
I see Marr.
There's not more action.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, how can you put 1 ferry between Banjul and Barra and it is not even 24 hours?
Yeah.
No, that is scandalous.
Yeah.
Scandalous.
No, I mean, we have been talking about it. I just wanted to respond on the attestation issue. So what we have been doing is engaging Parliament on the elections bill, right? And I think we in fact submitted a position paper on it to make sure that the issue of attestation is removed from the elections bill. So we're using legal way of policy advocacy in making sure that that comes to a pass, because that is the only way that is sustainable. We will go out and protest, make noise, but at the end of the day, obviously there's a Supreme Court ruling which is now a case law, but I think the National Assembly should also reference that particular case law from the Supreme Court and then make sure that it is effected in the election bill.
Yeah, because that is the good thing about litigation.
Yeah.
You can get immediate results as a result of that thing to stop, for example, something to stop or to take place. But it can also trigger legal reforms. And so I hope the election bill, eventually it will be out of the way. All right. And maybe to say this finally, in terms of political parties, you see, we see a very interesting drama in the U.S. These days.
Yeah.
Now, if you were the Gambia, people would say, but if somebody wants to kill the president and miss the president, the director, what can he do or she do? But the parliamentarians in the U.S. realize that, look, holding public office means something. It's a life and death issue.
Yeah.
And you cannot sit there and say it is the will of God or it is by chance or nature
Gambia,
or
everything
something
is
like that.
will of
so
God.
For us, Marr mentioned 71 children dying due to negligence. The National Assembly should have brought the Minister of Justice
should have resigned.
And the MCA and grill them like that and dismiss them.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this very situation.
Yeah.
The Minister of Transportation should have been brought to the National Assembly to answer why the ferry has to be made to wait for one individual.
Yeah.
So our National Assembly members, I mean, they have to exercise the powers that are in their hands, given to them by the Constitution, if they want to strengthen democracy, good governance, and human rights protection in this country.
Yeah.
That is where they are failing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you will not achieve that goal of resignation. The solution is sacking.
Sacking. Unfortunately, resignation will not happen.
They would have, because America, if you hold that position, you become uncomfortable.
Yeah, because
any single mistake can cost you a lot. Yeah. Here, tons of mistakes.
But Marr,
you will be rewarded.
You will be rewarded.
You will be rewarded. I see a minister
but you can get resigned. The reason why Americans, or as we say, white people resign, it is not because they love to resign. That lady, the director of Secret Service, would not have resigned. But because if you don't resign, the consequences would be greater. Because if that lady did not resign, after all that the parliamentarians or the Congress people said in that hearing, that will be a topic that in the end she will not fit in America.
That's what I'm saying.
So we don't make that kind of pressure on our public officials.
They make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So in our
we don't
case,
do that.
it should both be the National Assembly, obviously the civil society, political party, but most importantly
And
the
the media.
government,
And the media, yeah.
to make them feel uncomfortable.
I'm making a call for the deputy speaker to resign and the director of Ferry Service to resign for their misconduct, which is to me tantamount to corruption and abuse of
I was sleeping Boraba.
But look at what even the president. Can you imagine the president of the republic, Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Man, Joe Biden did not just leave that position; he was pressured to leave, and he left. That's what
that's
people.
a lesson. I mean, I'm not a fan of America, but then the way they run their
My friend,
democracy, you admire them.
You do.
They're controlled.
I sit up till 3 a.m., 4 a.m. just looking at how things play out in the U.S. these days. How you can pressure, how the media pressured Joe Biden and donors and these top of just the most powerful man in the world. He had to resign because people believe we should be able to do that one day in the Gambia.
It's about standing for country.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we have not built that culture and integrity of resigning because of what happened.
No.
To respect the sometimes resigning also means respecting the will of the people.
Man, gentlemen, this was a great show. I'm going to have this show. You guys promise me once every month, you guys, Madi, once every month, I can always drag Marr. But Madi, mom, you know what I did yesterday when I had to get Madi? I said, Madi, what have I done to you? You came to Grand Bantaba and I was the one, you haven't got, to get him here. Now I have to, Marr I can drag, but Madi, you have to promise.
Well,
you have to be coming often.
Me talking is my problem. I get surprised when people say
you do so.
Talking, I'm more comfortable with writing.
No,
I can sit here in 10 minutes, write 2 pages on my phone.
Yeah.
But when it's about speech, I'm here talking, but you don't know how much I'm straining.
No. This was amazing. But honestly, this kind of civic education shows sometimes we just have to get away from the politicians and look at things from these angles so that people really understand the perspective and how the situation of our country. And I think a lot of people will understand where we are right now. Whether you like it or not, these are not politicians, but they're just people who believe in the system and they are telling us what the system looks like today. And this is the clear picture of what our country looks like today. And I think, you should be coming. Let's make it every 6 weeks, Madi. Every 6 weeks at least.
In principle,
in principle, okay.
Make sure whenever you're dragging me, I'm on my half-time.
I'll let you know earlier. I'll let you know. But gentlemen, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Is very educative. Thank you so much, Madi. Always my respect. And Marr, thank you so much for always, coming whenever we call. And to the technical team, they are all they left us with the cameras. They are all in the, control room. Okay. But thank you very much. I'll see you again next week. Good night to you all. Bye-bye.
We are happy to announce the launch of our new logo. We have evolved since our incorporation in 1997, and it is time to refresh our new look to reflect who we are today. Before I reveal our new look, however, walk with me while I take you through our journey of the last 25 years. Trust Bank was incorporated on July 3rd, 1997 and began operations on October 1st, 1997. Following the collapse of the parent company of its predecessor, Meridian, the CBG stepped in and recapitalized the bank and held the shares in trust, thus the name Trust Bank. In 1999, true to who we have always been. As we look forward to greater achievements, we are rebranding to reflect who we are today and the future that we inspire. Our new logo has been designed to visually demonstrate our Gambian heritage and the sophisticated nature of the bank. We are moving away from the navy and gold-colored parallelogram-shaped logo to our baobab tree with a rising sun in the background. The striking outline of a baobab tree at sunrise is a familiar sight to anyone who has spent time in the Gambia. Our new logo and visual identity are inspired by our core values and spirit of being a pioneer in providing a unique banking experience. It is a completely new look that better matches the transformation we have made as a company. But we remain your trust bank. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to present to you our new logo and corporate identity.